I'm really curious because I heard, I mean, I was really young in 2008, but I heard like literally the world was falling apart, right? Like literally, especially for real estate, everyone was freaking out, flying out to be doing flipping, especially because I keep hearing from people, stop flipping, don't do flipping right now. Cause I mean, I don't know if it's going to be as bad as 2008, but we're heading into a recession of sorts, right? So how did you tune out the world or
Well, to be
what, like,
clear, I wasn't flipping. I was wholesaling.
oh,
Right. So
wholesaling, right.
wholesaling is where you are going and putting a property under contract, and then you are assigning your interest in that contract to somebody else. I was flipping paper.
Right.
So,
Less
which
risky.
which there's no risk, right? There's
Right.
literally zero risk in that deal.
Yeah,
And
100%.
so, um, the flipping in my life became much, much later. But at that particular point, what I had done, and I still do today, and I still teach people to do today, is that I, in my grocery business, I had developed a technique called reverse wholesaling, which is not, it's just a fancy name. And in the grocery industry, I was just talking to our customers and saying, if I could sell you anything at any price, delivered in any city on any day, what do you want to buy from me? And then by virtue of that, I was basically building database of all the things that I knew my customers would buy on the regular and the price they would pay. And so now my job was just to go reverse engineer. All right, if they want to buy it for $50 a case, I need to go buy it for $35 a case. I need to pay for the shipping and deliver it to them for $50. I can make the money. Well, the exact same thing is what we put in real estate. We went out and found all the cash buyers in every market that we were in and said, if I could sell you anything at, mind you, cash buyers don't need banks. So while all the financial crisis was happening, that was a credit driven crisis. It was 100% bank driven. So if you needed a mortgage, if you needed a bank, you couldn't buy because that was over.
Right.
But if you were just buying for cash, which 40% of the market was, they were buying up everything. And so I was like, if I could sell you anything in any neighborhood at any price, close on any day, what do you want to buy? Tell me exactly what it is. How many bedrooms, how many baths, year built, square footage, what is your appetite for rehab, all that stuff. And then reverse engineer, okay, this guy wants to buy 25 houses in that zip code. He wants to pay $200,000 each, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, built after the year 1979, everything. And then I would just go center all of my marketing on those exact properties that fit that. And I would go right after the sellers that I knew were in distress, because distress never takes a day off. It happens in every market. It does not care about an up market, down market, recession, no recession. Doesn't care. People still go through people still die. They still go through divorce. They still go through foreclosure, bankruptcy, inherited properties, loss of job, you name it. That happens every single day. And so, and by the way, almost every one of those things I just mentioned are public record. If you file for divorce, it's public. If you go through bankruptcy, it's a public record. Death, public record. Foreclosure, public record, right? Loss of job, you file for unemployment, public record. When you realize that the data exists, you can literally say, okay, in that neighborhood, who are the people that are going through distress? And let me go talk to them and see if I can help them get out of their situation. Go make them an offer on their house. I would go get it under contract, and then I would turn around, nothing predatory, just mark it up 10,000, 15,000, and flip my interest in the contract to the cash buyer. And that little delta there was my profit. You look up, and before you know it, you go do that several hundred times a year, and you're making a ton of money.
I love it. So getting into some real estate stuff, would that be the strategy you recommend right now for wholesalers? Yes. Is basically keep wholesaling, and that's like the best strategy you could possibly
avoid risk. There's no reason to take on any risk in a climate like this because nobody has a crystal ball.
Right.
And the people that are buying, and there's a lot of people buying, and there's a lot of people paying all cash right now, those are the people who have extraordinarily deep pockets, and they have a much longer view of the market. They're playing the long game. Most real estate investors play the short game. Hey, if I can flip it in a year, I can make X, Y, Z. Institutions and cash buyers, they have a 10, 20, 30-year timeline, if not longer. And so their appetite is, they just don't look at it the same way that we look at it. They're looking at it, if I can pick up, if an asset is worth $500,000 today and I can pick it up for $400,000 and Kent picked it up for 375, I know historically speaking that over the course of the next 30 years, that $400,000 asset is going to triple in value. All the data points that will happen over a 30-year period. And so they're just playing a different game.
Right. I love it. So sounds like the two strategies are either be the cash buyer, which most people on here can't be, or just stick to wholesaling, keep it simple, no risk. You're probably going to get screwed, or you might not be, but like it's going to be a lot harder to do like the flipping and the shorter term stuff right now. It's just
unless you have a ton of experience in flipping houses and you have a war chest of money, which allows you that if and when, because you will make a mistake, you can stomach it, then don't. Just don't do it. Now, there are guys, think about it. We rehab houses now. We haven't stopped, but we have a machine. We have hundreds of millions of dollars behind us, right? And we can afford to go make a mistake, and it's okay. It's not going to take us out of business. But, if your business is I flip 10 houses a year, and, my average margin on those houses has historically been $50,000 each.
Right.
Well, you're a whisper away from making a really bad mistake on a $600,000-$700,000 house. The market corrects 10%, you're suddenly in the red. And if that happens 10 times, you're out of business. And so just don't. There's no reason to do that.
Right. 100%. I love it. So now I'm just kind of curious, what's your strategy right now? Is it mainly like, are you like going to keep flipping? Are you going to keep doing, or are you going to increase the wholesaling? Are you going to increase the cash buying?
All of it. I mean, we are, we're in a very different situation than we were back then. Right. So, our business runs, we'll buy 80 to 100 houses this month. We'll rehab them and we'll sell them. And our strategy really hasn't changed. Our buying criteria might have tightened up. We are playing, understanding that we're baking in if the market goes down 10 or 15%. So that we're buying smarter. We're still wholesaling, 30 to 40 houses a month. In my funds, we are buying multifamily, we are buying industrial, we are buying RV parks, we are buying self-storage, things that are traditionally recession resilient. And so, when you get to a certain level, you can afford to be a lot more strategic with what you're doing, and you understand that these are the times where real wealth is created. If you're a brand new investor and you've been doing it less than 5 years, or even in the last 10 years, you have never seen anything but up and to the right.
Yep.
If you got into this business after 2012, you have no idea what the hell I'm even talking about, right? Because it's always gone up. But I can assure you, 99% of the people that have come in the last 10 years are nowhere near as good as they think they are. And they're going to get tested. And if they don't pivot and they don't understand that and they kind of buy into their own BS, it isn't a matter of if they're going to get hurt. It's just a matter of when. And it can be quite painful.
Right. 100%. So I kind of want to pivot right now into your experience with the education space. And because this is something that's also been asked of me, and I love asking people who are educators this question. When do you think somebody should get a mentor? Like, when should somebody sign up for a program? Is it after the first deal, or is it for certain people never? Is it for certain people ever? What's your opinion on mentorships and coaching and stuff like that, and when you should do them? Always.
I mean, the reality of it is, if you think of it like this, everybody here owns a car, and there are a few people who are probably watching this that have the skill sets and the desire to go fix their own car, right? But that's very few of us. Mm-hmm. I'm not one of them. And you certainly, if you just absolutely had to, can probably break out the owner's manual or go look up something online or go watch a YouTube video. If you had to go do something to fix your car, you certainly could do all that. Or, like most of us do, we go take it over to the dealership and we pay a mechanic and we pay a few $100s, and, depending on what they have to do, in a matter of an hour or a couple hours or whatever the case may be, it's done. And the dumb people look at that and like, oh my God, why would I pay somebody, a couple of $100? I could totally do this myself. I could do this on the weekend and pay it, on a Saturday and a Sunday and blah, 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 blah. It's because they don't value their time. Mm-hmm. What you're really paying for is not the time that somebody takes to do it, but the knowledge, the years of experience, the thousands of cars, the thousands of times they've fixed that one thing, the knowledge and wisdom that they have to just go and even if it is as simple as pressing a button, resetting a switch, changing a breaker, right? Or whatever it is, it's irrelevant. The point of it is you're paying for somebody's wisdom so that you don't have to. And the same is true of coaching and mentoring. When you look at a coach and mentor, you're looking at somebody like me. I've been in business 35 years. I have all the scars. It has not been cupcakes and rainbows for me for many, many of those years. You don't hire somebody like me as a mentor because of my success. You hire because of my failures. Because I've taken the hits, I have the scars, I've taken all the battle wounds, and I'm still here, and I'm still growing, and if you just want to get the result without having to go through all the hardship and all the wounds and all the scars and all the heartache and all the sleepless nights, just show me how to get the result faster, then that is one of the best investments you could ever make. Because that collective wisdom, if somebody is willing to impart it on you and say, Jonah, rather than you go try to figure out wholesaling or try to figure out real estate investing on your own, how about we just go do this, go do this, go do this, talk to that person, use that system, pull that list, send that piece, have this conversation. Here it is. Do that, and you will get a result that will reward you for $20,000 each time you do it. That's an amazing investment in yourself and in time. And the moment you acquire the skill, nobody can ever take it away from you.
So
it's
true.
Like literally, like, here's the recipe and go. Just because I go and throw eggs and flour and milk and salt and butter into a pan and I whip it all up and I go put it in the oven does not make it the most amazing cake you've ever had.
Right.
There are bakers, wedding cakes and special cakes that make the most amazing cakes in the world. They get thousands of dollars, not hundreds of dollars for they have a special recipe. They have a special formula. They have a special technique. They understand how to do things that are very, very different. So many people, they get trapped in thinking, well, I know what to do. Well, you might have all the key ingredients. You just don't have the formula. But the moment you have the formula, you get to do whatever you want with it, that skill, for the rest of your life. You cannot unlearn it. Being broke from that point forward is a choice. And imagine for a minute if you had the choice of whether being broke or not. If you literally had the knowledge that I know I can go print money on demand. I'm not saying it's easy, but if somebody would tell you this, it's as simple as following these steps and you will create this outcome. That formula is extremely valuable. And that's what coaching and mentors do for you, is not only to give you the formula, but then they hold your feet to the fire and hold you accountable to actually apply that knowledge and get the result and build the momentum.
No, I love it. I mean, there's a quote that I always heard. I don't know who said it, but I've heard it on different podcasts of like, if you think the cost of education is expensive, look at the cost of like stupidity or something like that, like the cost of not having education.
And I would even go further, brother, because the world is filled with overeducated, broke people, right? People get trapped thinking this is about education. What happens with them is and this is the reason I want to draw a line in the sand.
Go for it.
We live in a world where information is readily available. You can go watch YouTube videos. You can listen to podcasts like this. You can do all this stuff, right? Education is freely available. It is everywhere around us. And if everybody took all that education and applied it, the world would be filled with nothing but millionaires.
Literally.
Right. The reality of it is education is not the key, right? Again, the world is filled with overeducated broke people. It is equally filled with unbelievably dumb, dipshit, very wealthy people, right?
Right.
So it's not about education. It is about action. It is about applying the knowledge you gain and going. And that is what a coach and a mentor does for you. It's the wisdom, right? Mm-hmm. There's a big difference between, information and intellect. Like my insight, my intellect, my wisdom is much more valuable than what you can go learn on a YouTube video. When I'm working with somebody like you, like one-on-one, and when I tell you what you should do right now in this scenario, that insight is much more valuable than information. Information, if you could go take information and go do whatever you want to do with it, you would already be a multimillionaire. If not, again, the world will be filled with it. So it isn't about that. It's about the insight that you gain. And like, just do it this way. Here's the nuance. Here's this one context. Here's this one, whatever that is. That's what mentors do. And by the way, to this very day, I mean, I invest a great deal of money into my own mentors, my own training, my own masterminds. I rub shoulders with some of the best and brightest in business at an extremely high level that continue to challenge me. So this never stops. There's, show me a millionaire and I'll show you a frustrated billionaire. There's always some level that you're trying to accomplish. And the easiest way to accomplish this, get around the people who have already accomplished it.
It's so true. Like in the sense of like Avengers was like the best financial decision I've ever made, just from the fact of being around people, like so many different people at higher levels that it's like literally I can ask any of you guys any question, you've dealt with it before. 100%. I don't think there's a problem at my level that you've never dealt with. I don't think it's possible at this point. Right. So it is insanely valuable, like the mentorships and like,
and where people get trapped is again, back to what I was telling you earlier, right? It's never a lack of resources. It's a lack of resourcefulness.
Right.
And so, I was telling somebody this a few years ago. I had an event, and I have a friend here in La Jolla, California, where I live, and he owns a Ferrari dealership. And I knew I was going to do this. I was going to make a point, right? So I had this all set up. So I had an event. I don't know. There's like 300 or 400 people there, and I had the car, a Ferrari, off to the side of where everybody was sitting in the audience. I had it completely covered. Nobody knew it was under it. And so I talked from the front of the stage and talked to them about coming into our mastermind, into, working with us, et cetera. And at that time, it was like $30,000 to join us, which is, easily is a big sum of money for people. I don't know, about 10% of the room signed up. And then basically the biggest objection from the rest of the room was, clearly always is, well, I can't afford it.
Right.
Okay, fair enough. And then I had them pull the curtain off of or the blanket, whatever it is, off of the car. And I then made a comment. I was like, hey, my friend owns a Ferrari dealership down there. This is a $400,000 car right here. I've got a very special surprise for you guys. What he has agreed to do is he has 100 of these back at his lot. And for every single person that can bring me $30,000 within the next 3 hours, he will sell you that $400,000 car for 30 grand.
Wow.
And I said, how many of you believe you can go get that $30,000 right now? Literally 90% of the room throws their hands up. I was like, everybody put your hands down. You just made my point. The way our brains work, if it's tangible, if it's right in front of us, oh my God, I can buy this $450,000 car for $30,000. I can make 400 grand. I can make 300 grand, whatever it is, right?
Right.
We suddenly, it excites our imagination. And we're like, oh my God, I can totally do this. This is going to be great. I just won the lottery. The moment you talk to them about, hey, give me $30,000 and I'll show you how to make $450,000 a year for the rest of your life. It's, oh, no, I can't afford to do that.
Isn't that what it is?
That's right. So it's all what we believe is possible inside. Everybody's naturally going for the quick hit, right? Versus learning a skill that could not only pay you $450,000, it could pay you $4.5 million. It could pay you $45 million every year for the rest of your life. It's not a red car on 4 tires sitting in front of you. It means you're going to have to do some stuff. And so it proves the point very, very visually. It's never a lack of resources. It's a lack of resourcefulness. Under the right circumstances, you'll get real resourceful. Wrong circumstances, you'll con yourself and seduce yourself and say, oh, I can't.
Right.
And you just have to get excited about what's going on. If you want to be better, you have to get excited about what that represents in your life. Because, man, I'm a redneck from Memphis, Tennessee. If anybody ever told me that I'd be living the life that I am right now, especially 20 years ago when I lost everything, I'd be saying, you're absolutely crazy. There's no way. But if I can do it, anybody can do it, man. I'm as big a dummy as anybody else out there, right? I barely graduated high school, but I do know that it is 100% possible if you get over the fear and get in the game and actually put yourself in a position to win. So when it comes to mentors, it comes to masterminds, it comes to training, it comes to, yeah, I get it. No joke. You know what? It is hard. It is a tough pill to swallow. What's the alternative? Being broke for the rest of your life? Trying to
Right.
just bang it out and figure it out? Absolutely not.
Right, 100%. No, yeah, I was about to say, I mean, I think you answered it, but like but I'm curious, like, what do you think? It seems like, do you think there's anything else other than what you just said? Because that seems like a very important point of what makes the difference between the successful people in real estate versus the unsuccessful people, in your opinion. It definitely seems one you've been talking about it the entire time, whether you're just changing the mindset to make you realize that, like, no, there's hundreds of people doing it around you, making tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars a month. What I'm just curious, from what you've seen, what else, if anything, differentiates the people who make it versus the people who don't make it?
Action. I mean, it's an insane amount of action and it's wildly imperfect. Most people that live in fear, especially newer investors, and I won't even say investors, newer entrepreneurs, period, they somehow believe that you got to cross every T, dot every I. I got to go, Kent. I got my LLC perfect, and I got my new logo. And dude, I didn't have any of that when I started. Who cares? None of that matters. It's completely irrelevant. That imperfect action is the key, right? Done is better than perfect. You have to create momentum. You have to be in a place, and you have to look. Think of it like this. I think I used this example this past weekend when we were talking. Is that, imagine for a moment if I wanted to be an amazing MMA UFC fighter, and if I sat around and thought for a moment that I could educate myself to the point that I'm ready to fight. I could go and watch all the YouTube videos, listen to the podcast, read the books, to the point where I just, after consuming so much information, that now I'm ready to fight. I would sound like a moron. At some point, to become a great fighter, it is very clear what I have to do. I actually have to get in the ring. More importantly, in order to get in the ring, the one thing I cannot have is a fear of getting hit, a fear of getting choked out, a fear of breaking a bone or getting bruised or blood. I mean, clearly that is an unreasonable fear to have if I wanted to be a great fighter.
It's
because
just part of it.
It just comes with it. It's just part of it. Like, hey man, I expect to get hit. I expect to get knocked out. I expect to break a bone. I expect I expect all these things. And when all those things happen, I'm learning. And then I go back to my corner. I talk to my coach. I listen to what they say. And then I get back in there, do it again. And I just try to improve and improve and improve and improve and improve. And business is exactly the same way. Like, at some point, you cannot study your way into actually the game. You actually have to get in there. Mm-hmm. And when you get in there, the expectation needs to be, just like in the ring, I expect to get hit. I expect to get knocked down. I expect it to be imperfect. I expect to get choked out. I expect to suffer. I expect to not have all the answers. And then I'm going to go back to my coach, and they're going to tell me, okay, do this or do this or this. And I'm going to go back and do it again. And that's how champions are actually made. Champions are not made by avoiding conflict. They're not made by avoiding challenges. They're made through challenges. And that's what I see with newer entrepreneurs, is they actually just don't expect to get hit. They're looking for perfection. When you go into this, it is pointless to live in fear of falling down. It is pointless to live in fear because literally the road to success, I should say figuratively, but literally as well, the road to success is paved with failure. You get knocked down, you figure it out, and then you get back up. And sooner rather than later, success starts to come your way. And before you know it, you're sitting on a podcast 20 years later talking about, hey, I got knocked down a lot and I'm still here and I'm still good at it and I'm still moving. And all that wisdom that you gained along the way is actually the most valuable thing that you have to share. Like,
I love that. I love that so much, because it's so true in the sense of it changed my perspective so much when instead of thinking of it as, oh my God, I'm so scared that I'm going to get sued, or like I'm going to like do something wrong, or like a deal's going to blow up. It's like when it changed my mind of just being like, it is going to happen. If I'm going to become worth $500 million, I'm going to have to spend millions of dollars. Things are going to happen. Deals are going to explode. That is a necessary part of it. So I love the MMA analogy because it's true. You're going to get hit if you go into the ring. And
Of course.
entrepreneurship is like that.
And you just expect it. And the exact same thing is in entrepreneurship. I just expect to get hit. I know when I walk in the door, something will have gone off the rails every week, and we're going to have to figure it out. And I've flexed that muscle so many times over the last 30 years that I just don't live in fear of it. But the only reason I have the muscle, the only reason I have the confidence is because I have gone through the challenges. Those challenges are the biggest strength you have. Overcoming them is the biggest strength you have. It is not a weakness. Is that wisdom is so valuable. I mean, look, when the 2008 crash happened, yes, my investing business was going very, very well. But equally, I owned a company called 1-800-SELL-NOW, which was a branding company where investors paid me to use a vanity brand and they licensed the brand from me, right? So, hey, if you need to sell your house now, call 1-800-SELL-NOW, and their phone would ring, right? And I had hundreds of people paying me to use this brand that we had built. And the television commercials, radio. Well, literally when the market collapsed overnight, no joke, in 24 hours, 90% of my customers canceled overnight. I had 11 employees in that business. I had to fire them 2 weeks before Christmas. Was gut wrenching, right? For everybody involved, including me. And my employees are like my family, but the business was, all the money was gone. It was like that. Like we're getting paid every month, and it's a cash flow business. And suddenly, if nobody pays us, there is no revenue, there is no payroll, right? And so when that happened, I mean, it was, like I said, it was gut wrenching. It was really hard. But because I had gone through what I had gone through 6 years earlier, at my lowest point, where I basically had lost everything, I had this weird calmness about me. Like, we can handle this. We will figure it out. We will get through it, because I had learned that in my darkest hours, I could overcome it. And that gave me the strength that every time since then, when something challenged, like, there's a calmness that comes over, like, I don't know what it looks like, but we're going to figure it out. We'll get it done. And then we just go to work, start chopping it down, just start figuring out how we're going to solve the problem. You cannot get that out of a book. You cannot get that out of a podcast. You cannot get that out of a YouTube video. There's only one way to get that. Get in the ring.
Yep, 100%. Kent, thank you so much. We're hitting the hour. There's always one last question that I like ending it with, and that's, if you were to go back to yourself right when you started in real estate or right when you started in business, what would you tell them now, knowing everything you know, with all the knowledge you know now? Like, what would you tell younger Kent?
Collect moments, focus on what matters most, which is your family, your friends, your relationships, your health. Focus on the things that enrich your life, and check your ego, check your pride. Don't get so locked in to, trying to have it all at 22 years old. That create balance in your life to where, you can actually, as I've now proven that the second phase of my life, you can have it all. And by all, I mean, you can be a present father. You can be a good husband. You can be a great friend. You can be a great son and a great brother. And you can motivate and inspire millions of people. And you can do all of that and have wildly successful businesses. You do not have to trade them off, and you do not have to con yourself and pound on your chest and talk about nobody will outwork me, out hustle me, all the bullshit. The reality of this is that there are different versions of the best. And to me, the best means being the best human being. If I could go back, the mistakes I was making at that age were, I was all in. I was all in on business. 5 a.m., 8 o'clock at night, got there first, left there last. Nobody was, and I was being rewarded for that. And it was feeding into my ego, into my pride. This is, my entire identity was wrapped up into it, to the expense of my first marriage, to the expense of my relationship with my young son at the time. I just wasn't the guy that I'm very grateful that I got the second lease on life, that I could become and had the opportunity to become the best version of myself. With that being said, I'll tell you, I wouldn't change anything, because in order for me to be the guy I am today, back to what I was saying earlier, I had to evolve from that guy. You cannot appreciate the light without the dark. And I look back, I'm extremely proud of what I did, but I definitely know I could have been better. And so when I got the second opportunity in life in my 30s, all the way now to my 50s, I'm much better for having gone through everything I've gone through. But if I had to impose some wisdom on there, it's like, dude, you can have it all. And this is how you do it.
Love it. Awesome. My man, thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything you want for my audience to go to? Anything to plug?
No,
Any
not at all, man. I'm
cool.
here for you.
Love
If
it.
anybody wants to reach out to me on Instagram, you can hit me up at Kent Clothier. Outside of that, man, always glad to help, and I appreciate the time, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. Honestly, like I've been following you for a long time now, and like I've enjoyed your content. I've loved it. It was cool seeing you at Avengers and talking for a minute. And truly, I appreciate you coming on. It was an amazing time. You spat some wisdom. You gave me a few things to think about tonight. I'm gonna start doing the what if my mom and dad had to die? Like what was it? Like if I didn't make $1 million, what would happen if they
Good.
I have to make $1 million.
Good.
And if they
Yeah.
die, if they don't, I'm going to start using that because that's a good motivator in the sense of like, no, it has to happen versus like I want it to happen. So awesome. Thank you
All
guys.
right,
Thank you
brother.
so much, Kent.
Peace.
I appreciate it.
Take
We're
care, my
out.
man.
Scorch the fears. Let's freaking go.